everyone, Kathy here and welcome back to my channel. For today's episode, I have invited Colette Bennett and Susan Dunn to talk to us about their hometown and to describe how they're using the social media to keep their community vibrant. Colette and Susan grew up in Bunclody, a little town located in Wexford County in Ireland. As children, they were not particularly interested in history classes, but now that school is long behind them, they have learned the importance of memories and have become more passionate about these stories debated at the dinner tables, these tearful memories referring to the old times, all these tales bringing up good old characters or chap running down the streets. Good morning, Susan and Colette. Thank you so much for your time and for accepting to answer my questions today.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
And Colette here. Delighted to talk to you, Kathy.
I'm really happy to talk to you. That's really nice, both of you. So you were both born and raised in Bunclody, a little town located in Wexford County in Ireland. Did you know each other growing up, or were you already friends back then?
And just to correct something, Kathy, I was born in England. I wasn't born in Bunclody at all.
Oh, okay. So tell me more. When did you come? When did you come to Bunclody?
My mother was from Bunclody and my parents got married in 1943 and there was no work in Wexford. And they emigrated near Liverpool. And that's where I was born in 1950. Shortly afterwards, they discovered my father had colorectal cancer and he was given 6 months to live. And he didn't want to he didn't want to die in England, so he came home to die, but he lived for 14 years after that. But that's how it came. He came back in 1953, so I don't remember England, but I was born there.
Oh, okay. So you were not born in Bunclody, but you were raised in Bunclody. You went to school.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. That's really interesting. What about you, Susan? I assume that you're both born in Bunclody. Were you born in Bunclody?
I'm actually just about 3 miles outside the town. I live in a village called Clahaman, which is just a small village, but I went to school in Bunclody as well, and I've worked in Bunclody, and it's my local town. I might as well say I'm from Bunclody. Yeah, in my mind I am.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Could I just say that when we set this up, I had never met Sue. But I had never known Sue. Sue is a completely different generation from me. Sue is in the same class as my eldest son at school.
And that's what I think makes the group interesting, because I mean, for my generation, with my passion for remembering things from the past, I don't know the information that you know, Colette, you know, and but yeah, I mean, I could see Colette had great memory of the town at the time. And when I started, it was very quiet. The group itself was quiet. So we need other people like to interact with, of a different generation.
Exactly.
As Colette was saying. So no, we didn't know each other at all. It just kind of happened.
I don't even know how you came to ask me, Sue.
I was trying to remember that too, Colette. I don't know how it kind of came about. I'll be honest, I was actually meant to look back to see exactly how it came about, but I haven't got around to it yet.
You live far from each other?
Oh, I'd say we're about 5 miles apart, but I think I've met Sue 2 or 3 times. Is it, Sue?
That's about it. Yeah, we met a few. Yeah, one woman. Yeah, a couple of times I've met. Yeah, we don't know each other that well.
We only met by design once when we met a returning lady from the town. That's the only time we've actually formally met.
So now, just to give a little bit of information, this podcast is run internationally and we have people from 28 countries listening to us today. So for the people who are not from Bunclody, I would be really grateful if you could give me a little bit of geography and history lesson about Bunclody, anything that you know of. I don't want anything from the books, but what you think is relevant about your little town, please.
I'm just going by Father Wall. Now, Father Wall is a man in his 90s, is he, Sue?
And yeah, he is.
He's probably the local person with the most knowledge of the history of the town. And just recently we had an interview with him on this page. And from what he said was there was a monastery in Bunclody way back at the time of the monks. But there's a part of Bunclody to this day still called St. Bruno. And that apparently was the monk who set it up there. So I'm sure the time of the monks would be 500, 800. I'm not sure. And before that, there was a Ra up in the Round O. So was that a Ra? It's up in the golf club now, the Round O. You and I were meant to go one time to.
We were meant to go, yeah.
Yeah, and so apparently there was settlement there. That's kind of nearly prehistoric times. But it was just a hamlet up until, I think, the 1500s. The Sheriff of Dublin, whose name was Barry, bought land, or was he granted land in the area. And that's when it became a market town. But the 1500s is when it got a little bit more important, if that's the right word. It is set on the foothills of Mount Leinster in the southeast corner of Ireland.
The sunny south, right?
The sunny southeast is what it's called. And the name Bunclody means, the word bun is the Irish for the end, the bottom of the Clody River, Bunclody, because under the bridge in Bunclody, it joins the Slaney River and flows into the sea at Wexford. So that's what the name Bunclody comes from.
That's really, so when did it become a town, the town that you have right now? It's not a village anymore.
We would class it a town. Now, I'm sure that sounds hilarious to people from other countries and all, but it would be considered a town, a market town. And I think from the 1500s, it built up.
The man Maxwell Barry, he was the local landowner you were talking about. I think he was the man who established the layout of the town as it is. Initially, I think, weren't all of there were like cabin huts basically down around the back of Milers and there along the river.
Right, facing the Clody, facing
and
the
then
Clody.
he devised, or he formulated the structure as it is today with the mall in the middle and then the row of houses either side. So that's where the name Newtown Barry then came from him. Because he established a town as it is known today. So it changed, and he changed to Newtown Barry.
So how many people do you think live in Bunclody today? What, 2,000 inhabitants?
We have quite a large population now. We have a lot of different nationalities.
Oh, you have 4,000 people in your group.
A lot of those are immigrants, and that would mean nothing at all, Kathy. And a lot of local people wouldn't even know the existence of this page.
Yeah, Paul didn't know about it, and then his brother Mick told him, and so forth. So it's a word of mouth. So people talk about it, and I see that it's growing really well. It's a beautiful group, I have to say. I really enjoy watching it. So as you know, Paul, my husband, was also born in Bunclody, and he also comes to me with fun stories, and his dad telling him about stories about the 1940s and the 50s and the arrival of the radio and so forth, and the GAA. Can you please think of one fun story that you can each tell me from your generation, that someone, maybe your parents, were telling you about Bunclody, something about the town that really stuck with you during the year?
I'll have to think about that one, Colette.
I'd have to think about that now too, Sue, because there are so many, but yet just to pick out one. I can
think of fun times maybe in the town. I remember when I was growing up, like I would have been growing up a different generation. As Colette was saying, the 80s and the 90s. 90s would have been when I was in my teenage years. We loved when the Island Rune Festival was on in Bunclody. It was a big thing. I used to go stay with my cousin. She lived in the town, and we loved going around, walking around the town and just hanging out. And we used to have a local or an amusement park used to come to the town, and it was a huge thing back then. Like, music on the street and just people getting together. They're my memories that I love. I'm sure it's very much like the fair days of past years. People just getting together and having the crack, as they say.
And Kathy, I don't know if you ever came across the book on the history of Bunclody by Father Wall that we spoke of a while ago. But when I read that now, and I read it every so often, when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, I was born in 1950. So I would think that from the foundation of the town up to when I was growing up, nothing had changed. And since then, everything has changed. Like when Father Wall talks about where the church was, where the schools were, where the barracks was, where everything was, it was exactly the same when I was a child. And now none of those places are in the original spots any longer. So there's been more change in my lifetime, I imagine, than there had been for hundreds of years, before that. In actual fact, the last time that I read the book, I put little footnotes in this margin in case any of my children might reform and find some interest in the future, so that they know where I'm talking about, where things were.
That's amazing. But when you came, at least you had cars, because, the generation before you, I understand they didn't have cars. They had, horses.
Oh, hold on now, Kathy. When I was growing up, it was only the very well-off people who had cars.
Oh.
We would trade on the streets. The boys hurled on the street and would be very inconvenienced if a car happened to come along and they had to move in off the street and stop hurling. It wasn't common at all. And it was only kind of the doctor and the parish priest and the better off people. We certainly didn't have a car when I was a child. It wasn't the norm. We had electricity and we had running water in the house in Bunclody. If you moved kind of a half mile outside the town, there was no running water. There was no electricity. My generation, people going to school with me, didn't have running water or electricity at home.
Wow. So now I would like to talk to you, if it's okay, about your Facebook group. So you decided to create a Facebook group called Bunclody History and Photos. Today that group has more than 4,100 people. So this is, like I said, this is a really, really amazing accomplishment. You should really be proud of yourselves. So considering that the town of Bunclody, I'm sure, would have about, 3,000, 2,000 inhabitants. So can you please explain to us why you decided to open that group and not just go to the library and talk to people or something? Why did you go to Facebook and say, this is what I want to do as a passion?
Well, I suppose I was made redundant in work in 2014, and while I had 4 kids at home, I always was kind of interested in local history. As I said, I'm not a huge scholar of history. I didn't enjoy history in school at all, but I love my family history, and I love trying to remember and find out things about the past. So in July, I think it was 2015, I don't know, I just decided I'd start this group, see where it went. And it didn't take off at all in that time at all. But then I'm not quite sure what happened in 2016, around October 2016. I know I remember speaking to Colette online, but asking her would she add me in the group with me. And at that stage, we had a few members only. And it kind of just took off. I think we started putting up old pictures. A fair day picture might have gone up at the start, and a few more people joined. And then the thing I love about the group is the fact that people can have virtual conversations and can discuss their memories together, like a conversation online. That's why I think a Facebook group is good for that, But it's just that's my passion. I love keeping old memories alive. That's it. That's the reason I started it. And as I said, Colette's joined shortly after I started, and she's a different generation and she's different memories. Everybody has different memories, and everybody, it's just, that's what I like. That's why I started.
And I would think it was the photographs that drew people in, suddenly
Yeah,
I remember so-and-so in that. So somebody got word out to so-and-so, so somebody joined then. I'd imagine that's what got people interested and got to come looking at old photographs.
Exactly, yeah.
Talking about photographs and memories, I can see that so many people are sharing their photos and their stories and their feelings as a whole. I was reading, because I'm reading it almost every day and I really enjoy it. And I was reading this gentleman, he was talking about the way he was growing up in the 1940s and how he would walk around the streets and what he remembered. And someone else was saying, oh yeah, I remember that too. And my mother was telling me. So it's really a community process. But what about you two? Do you have a favorite story, something that someone posted and you thought was really, really interesting and you cherish their memories? Do you have a favorite moment, a favorite post that you would like to share with us?
I have many. Trying to pinpoint one is hard. I have a distinct memory of a man posted. Can I name him?
I'm sure they would be very happy to be named.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been numerous, as I said, and it's not pinpointing any particular one, but this one just springs to mind. It was Patrick Norris. He did a whole tour of where he started. He lived up Kilbranish, and he did his whole tour down the town on a Saturday, I think it was, with his
grandmother, I think.
And every shop they went into, and it was like actually being with him. I loved that. I thought, and he got such a reaction to that. That's a standout memory. There was no photograph attached to that, which was quite unusual. As you say, Colette, photos always draw people in, but people don't always read the comments or the posts as such. It was just brilliant. It was you should look back, Kathy, if you can find it, or I tag you in it. It's really good.
That I would really love to see.
And then we had a recent one, Sue, was it Alan Gilbert, who was talking about the floods in 1965, and he went into great detail about that. And that captured the imagination of a lot of people, and they came back and said, oh yes, I remember the floods, I remember this, I remember that.
And then he actually mentioned, not knowing that it was my grandparents he was speaking
That's
about
right.
it. So I had a personal memory of a family member that I didn't have before. You see, those kinds of things I love.
Yeah.
That's really, and I remember not too long ago, someone posted a photo, about 2 or 3 days ago actually, someone posted a photo about Bunclody being completely frozen. And then, you know, I'm working on Andy Mann's recording, and he's talking about 1947, but I went back and that was 1940. So it looks like at the time it was happening quite often, the big bad winters with snow, and these are amazing stories. That's great.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who have emigrated, because, you know, Bunclody is a small town, but you have people from Bunclody and all over the world, it seems. So do you have people watching you from all around the world? Do you have a recording of who is watching you and from where?
I think we tried to establish that at one stage, Sue, but it kind of got lost in it about who was where.
Yeah, there are parts you can go onto the page and you can check and see, you know, what countries are members in what countries. But to be honest with you, I haven't focused too much on it. I mean, to be honest with you, the page runs itself quite well. I mean, it really is only a platform. Initially when it started, I put up everything I had of relevance I could find, and I have no more of my own personal information.
I've exhausted mine as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, we're dependent on people to keep it going, basically. So as I say, I'd love people to put up more stuff. I'm sure you would, Colette, but you can't force people.
There are drawers and boxes in houses around Bunclody full of old photographs that we'd all love to see. And in another while, the people who would remember who they are will be gone.
Absolutely.
So this is one way of kind of immortalizing those people. Yeah. At the moment now, there's somebody has a photograph, 2 photographs up. Can anybody identify these people? Yeah. Says 1949 Bunclody on the back. And there are suggestions coming in. I think that's just fabulous. But there's so many photographs like that will be put in a skip when the people die, and nobody will they'll just disappear. In my mind.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. Yeah.
You know,
there's just one other thing that Kathy said there as well about the different countries in the world and talking about favourite posts. One of my favourites is from a man called Jerry Morrissey in Sweden. Now, I remember Jerry. Jerry was a couple of years older than me, and he has gone out of Bunclody. He went off to college, he went to Trinity after school, and he's never lived in Bunclody since. But he came up with a post, I think he called it Bunclody-isms or something like that, about phrases and expressions that he remembers. And people joined in and put in others, and then we found that some of them are universally used around the world, others are Irish sayings, others are purely Bunclody sayings. I just found that so interesting. Now.
That was brilliant post. I forgot about that one. It was really good. Yeah.
This is amazing. You know, I was saying I come from the second biggest city in France. I come from Marseille, and I really love hearing about that notion of community, how you remember, even if you don't remember what your neighbor was doing or who that neighbor was, but you always have someone who can tell you, someone living there in the Irish street, and it's just so beautiful to see how you can recreate that time and just keep the community together and so strong. It's something to really, really cherish. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I agree completely. The whole sense of community, and I hope we never lose it. I hope it lasts.
So what about Gaelic, the language? I don't see anyone posting anything. Is it a language that you are still using, or is it something that we are using only at school, or what is the space of that language in Bunclody? Is there a space for it?
I would think not really. No. Not much. Now, and I'm taught Irish all my life. I love it, and I would engage with anybody who would engage with me. But Irish has gone out of this part of the country for a very long time.
Okay.
I mean, say now, I don't know, Kathy, if you've ever heard of the rebellion of 1798 when they took on the Crown forces here in Wexford. But here's an interesting fact. We were part of the United Kingdom at the time, obviously. And the local rebels here in Wexford, they all congregated on Vinegar Hill in Enniscorthy. And the rebels were all speaking English.
Yes.
Now, they drew in auxiliaries from Cork. So the British army that the rebels were fighting were from Cork. And those soldiers were speaking Irish. So the rebels who were rebelling against the Crown forces were speaking English. And the soldiers for the Crown forces were from Cork and they were speaking Irish. So it's gone a long, long time from here. So I love it. I would engage with anybody, but it doesn't come into everyday parlance. Now, every school child in Ireland has always had to learn Irish. And my father always said the only way to bring Irish back was to ban it.
Yeah. And that is very true, especially with teenagers. You tell them not to do something.
They're not allowed.
No.
I love Irish, and my son teaches in an all-Irish school. There's an all-Irish secondary school in Enniscorthy, and he teaches there.
Yeah, like, I mean, the same as what you were saying. It's unfortunate, like, you know, it has completely almost gone. I didn't particularly love it in school. Again, the same as history. Didn't particularly love it, but I would love to be able to speak Irish now. But I like, if I was listening to the news in Irish, the new in Irish, I would be able to follow a bit of it. You know, you'd be surprised about how much you actually know from school.
I think a lot of people don't give themselves credit for how much they do.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hold a conversation at all, but I can understand if it's spoken, I can understand a good bit of it. But I think it's actually much less now than when I was even in school. Kids, like my children, I have a 20-year-old, he's doing languages, not Irish, in college, but I have a 13, almost 14-year-old, and even from those two different kids, their knowledge of Irish has even diminished, I think, which is unfortunate. It's just the way it is.
It's a shame, it is. But I'd say English is having that effect on every language throughout the world, because the whole language of communication throughout the world is English, isn't it? You know, I'm sure you have your problems with the franglais as well.
We do. We still have very strong accents, like you. I know Paul recognizes accent from one town to the other, but the one side, the language that they used to speak in the 18th century in the south of France is it's gone, but the accent is still there, and I'm sure you can also recognize accents from.
Absolutely.
For a small country, we have such an array of accents. I mean, if you listen to Americans, they have very much, I know if you go down south and that, they have a very strong, but all across America, the size of it, they all speak the same. Now, maybe if you're from there, you would feel differently, you know, but we have an amazing array of accents.
Even a couple of miles down the road, like, and it's a different accent, totally. It's crazy. In Wexford alone, there's so many. Yeah, Wexford Town, Enniscorthy, Bunclody. It's crazy.
No, I know. Paul always tells me, "Oh no, it's not from Bunclody," and I was like, you know, because this is not my first language, first of all. So for me to recognize it's a miracle at all that I can understand everything. So that's a good thing. So, you know, Suzanne and Colette, I am so grateful you took the time. Thank you so very much for, you know, taking the time to be with me today. I really had a great time with you both. You know, I know your audience, like I said at the beginning, I know your audience will love listening to you, not as administrative members of the group, but as great contributors of this community. You are recreating a community. So please pat yourself in the back, and it's an amazing accomplishment what you're doing. It really is.
Just in fairness to our members, Cassie, I would just like to comment that Sue and I are the admins. Now, we have very seldom had any occasion to remove a post or to not allow a post. The people are just great. I belong to other groups where there's a certain amount of cattiness or bitchiness comes in. There's never anything like that. There's not, Sue.
Very, very rare. It is actually a very good group that way. I mean, people are genuinely on it for the reason it's there.
Yeah.
Which is great, like, you know. And I have to say, I just fair play to all the members who are keeping it active, and there's newer members join us, all new to them. Unfortunately, it was very, very active at the start because we had a lot of input, but it does get quieter. It picks up every now and again, so hopefully it'll keep going.
Hopefully. I hope it's there forevermore.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So are you I'm sorry, I have one more question that I meant to ask. I don't think you are the owners of the second post, Bunclody Tourism, I think, and I see that you're crossing, so you're working together.
But we don't really, just when I see something good on it, I copy it to our page. There's somebody there doing amazing photography at the moment, just fabulous.
Absolutely, yeah.
Forward every day.
Yeah, he's doing a brilliant job, yeah.
The one thing I've learned from this page is that I have no idea. All these places I've heard of all my life, I don't know where they are.
Well, sure, look, we're all learning as we go along. It's only just, it's great that way, like.
So knocking yours down your way.
Knocking yours is just the next Townsland, yeah.
Anyone who complains about the internet, you can remind them that it's also good for the community. So listen, that's it for today. Thank you so very much, Colette and Suzanne, and I hope we'll be able to schedule another episode someday.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, it would be lovely, actually.
Yeah.
We enjoyed this time, and I'm sure your audience will love to hear from both of you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Kathy. And I hope you'll be very happy when you come to Bunclody, and we'll have to get together and have a cup of tea whenever you do make that move.
Absolutely agree. Thanks, Kathy, for putting it together.
Thank you so very much. If you, just like Suzanne and Colette, would be interested in participating in one of our future recordings, if you have questions, if you would like to share your adventure with us, or if you would like to pay tribute to a loved one, please do contact me at bbunclody@gmail.com. Stay tuned for our next episode, and always remember to love your life. Thanks, Colette and Suzanne, and see you very soon in Bunclody. Bye.